What is up, guys? Welcome to my top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week, week 16. This week consists of Legends of Tomorrow season 3 episode 13 titled No Country for Old Dad, The Flash season 4 episode 15 titled Enter Flash Time, Black Lightning season 1 episode 7 titled Equinox, The Book of Fate, which is a dumb title. I hate these book titles. This episode used to be called The New Norm, which just because it's not the book, it's not the book title, it would have been better. But whatever. Arrow Season 6, Episode 15, titled Doppelganger. This week was actually a pretty strong week. The Flash, in my opinion, had its best episode ever. Legends of Tomorrow had a pretty great episode. Arrow's episode was good, not great. And Black Lightning had also a pretty good episode. I didn't review it or anything because it's honestly pretty difficult to find the time to review Black Lightning. I might do it like, Arrow's going to be on break for 2 weeks now. I might just do like mini reviews for episodes 6 and 7 for Black Lightning then. But with that in mind, let's go over the top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week, week 16. Number 10 are all the scenes where Barry takes somebody into Flash Time, aside from the one where he takes Iris into Flash Time, because I feel like that is a whole nother moment. There are other things to that moment, but the scenes where he takes Cisco, Caitlin, and Harry into Flash Time, that is what is at number 10. I like those scenes because, first of all, I love how they used his powers, and specifically Flash Time in this episode. I think it was done really well, and it's highlighted a lot in those scenes. Another thing I like is that they address the fact that, one, they can't really use their powers because they need time to use them, and two, since they're speedsters, they get tired after a little bit because they don't have speedster anatomy or something. They don't have speedster powers, so they get tired. I like those scenes a lot also. I feel like they're all really well acted by both Grant Gustin and whoever he's bringing into Flash Time. I just like the scenes a lot because, like I said, the way that it showcases Barry's powers and the acting from all the actors and actresses was really good. Number 9 is the reveal that Mullis was trapped in a prison by the Totem Bearers in the past. This will probably lead to the Legends doing the same exact thing in the season finale, with each one of them having their own totem and each one of them using a different totem to defeat him and put him back in this prison. This is also a really great scene because it builds up the character of Mullis even further, even though we probably don't need any more building up and we should probably just see him already. It was cool seeing more of his backstory, or at least like how to defeat him. It was a really interesting scene, and it was also done really well. Number 8 is Roy and Thea's reunion on Arrow. I actually expected before going into this episode that the reunion between Roy and Team Arrow might be on this list, but they didn't really react in the slightest. Only Thea did, and she did act accordingly, even though they probably shouldn't have focused on her. Like I said in my review, the reunion was still a pretty great reunion. It was a really sweet, touching reunion between Roy and Thea, and those are the characters that probably need to reunite the most on the show. They're like one of the best couples on the show, so to see them reunite is pretty cool, and it was done really well in this episode. Number 7 is Wally decides to join the Legends on Legends of Tomorrow. This moment would have been a lot higher on the list if it happened last week, because narratively it would have felt more right for him to decide to join he did decide to, I guess, go with Rip Hunter and join the Legends last week, but if he actually joined the Legends last week as opposed to this week, this moment probably would have been at number 3, 2, or even 1. Probably not 1, but either like 2 or 3, because it would have felt more right narratively. But because in this episode he was technically already a member by the end or by the beginning, or at least that's how it feels. But regardless, it is a cool moment seeing Wally decide to join the Legends finally after like a month and a half of us knowing that he will. It is a cool end to this wait of him joining the Legends, even though it kind of felt like he joined the Legends in the beginning of the episode. Regardless, it was a cool scene. Number 6 is Jesse and Harry's mind conversation on the Flash. This was just a really well acted and touching moment, and that's really all I have to say about it. It was a pretty great moment, and despite the fact that it didn't really have much to do with the rest of the episode was pretty great, and this was a really good side plot. It really got me invested in the characters of Jesse and Harry more so than I've ever been before, like especially Jesse. I always thought that Jesse was a pretty okay character, never really a good character. I thought the actress was pretty bad, actually, but in this episode, she showed me that she's gotten better. At least she's really great. She was great in this episode, and this scene in particular. It's just that this scene was a really touching and well-acted scene that got me more invested in the characters of Jesse and Harry than I've ever been before. Speaking of getting more invested in a father-daughter duo on one of these shows, all the moments between Damien and Nora Dark on Legend of Tomorrow is number 5. Maybe you can also include the moments between Damien, Nora, and Ray, because those moments were all really great. This was the first episode where Damien Dark actually became a two-dimensional, more than a one-dimensional character who just cracks jokes and wants to destroy the world. He became a much more two-dimensional character with this father-daughter dynamic, and also Ray being there also added a lot to it. It's also the first episode where Nora had any personality whatsoever, and also her chemistry with Ray was pretty great, because the actors that portray them are actually married in real life, so they're bound to have pretty great chemistry. This moment is actually multiple moments, because there was no specific one moment where this whole concept was done well. It was really the whole episode in particular with Damien, Nora, and Ray's conversations and scenes together. So that's why it's multiple moments as opposed to the rest of the list, except for like number 10, which was also multiple moments for the same reason, but that's why it's multiple moments and not one. Number 4 is by far the craziest and most weird moment on this list, and that is on Black Lightning, where Latavius is resurrected, or Lala, or how he likes to be called, is resurrected. Lawanda comes back, turns to dust, and becomes a tattoo on Lala's chest. That has got to be the weirdest thing to ever come out of any DC TV show ever. First of all, it completely throws away the concept of this realistic take on a superhero show, because I don't have a problem with that, because I don't really like a realistic take. I mean, they are superheroes. They're supposed to be unrealistic, especially or at least when they have superpowers. Something like Arrow or Daredevil, they don't have superpowers, that's something else. But something with superpowers like Black Lightning or the Flash, that can't really be realistic. So this scene it threw that away, and that definitely didn't bother me. This scene actually made me interested in the show, and not much has been doing that for me lately. So this scene and this scene did that, so that's why it's on the list. It's a really crazy scene. It throws away the concept of this realistic show, and it makes me more interested in the show. It's just such a weird scene that I can't help but watch more to see what it means. Number 3 is where Barry's about to give up on stopping the nuke, so he gets to say goodbye to Iris, and then she comes up with the solution to stop the nuke. A lot of people I've seen didn't like this moment because they didn't like how Iris was the one to come up with it, but that does not bother me at all. I think it actually makes the most sense in terms of the story. When Barry was going to give up and let the nuke blow up and kill everybody, the only person that would make sense for him to go and say goodbye to, except for everybody, there's either one person or everybody, and that wouldn't really make sense for him to go to everybody, so because just showing that would be boring. But going to Iris would make the most sense. So he went to Iris, and then that felt like the climax of the story. So for Iris to not give the solution would be disappointing in that moment. But the fact that she did was really the only way out of that problem. Also, I love the solution she came up with. Every single solution they went over in this episode. They went over sending it to a dead Earth, time traveling, sending it into the Speed Force, or running it out of the city. They went through every single one, telling us why they couldn't do it. And then they had the most out-of-the-box solution ever, and it was a really creative one at that. So not only did it work in the story, not only was a really creative way out of the situation, but also it was really well acted. This scene was really well acted by Grant Gustin, as well as the rest of the episode, but this is probably his best moment in the episode, so I actually really, really liked this moment. Number 2 is that scene where Ricardo Diaz fought that guy, recruited him, and then yelled at Laurel and had this conversation with her. The reason this isn't so high on the list and is also so high on the list is because it's really the first time, aside from that one scene where he killed Kate and James, which happened a month and a half ago. It's really crazy how long ago that happened. I don't think it was a month and a half ago. It might have been a month, but it's been a while because there was that whole break and then that whole episode with no Ricardo Diaz in it. So we were a little dry on the Ricardo Diaz intimidating and badass moments, but this was the first episode where we got that, like, a lot. This is the first episode that Ricardo Diaz got any sort of development whatsoever, and he was pretty great in this episode, which is most evident in this scene where he is intimidating and badass for the first time ever. The fight scene was actually really great, and that's cool because he's supposed to be a really great fighter. In fact, he's supposed to be one of the best fighters in the DC universe, which it seems he's not on the show, but at least we were seeing him in a fight scene. Before this, we've only seen him in a fight scene with Diggle twice, I think, and both of them were pretty mediocre. So seeing him in an actual cool fight scene as well, as being intimidating and badass, is really cool. And number one, and you guys probably saw this coming if you saw my review for The Flash, and it is Barry runs into the Speed Force, gets the device, and stops the nuke. This was such an awesome, powerful, and awesome looking scene. The CGI was actually really good, specifically because it looked so cool. The colors like popped out at you, even though you can tell it was CGI sometimes when Barry was running. That didn't bother me at all because it looked so good regardless of whether or not you could tell it's CGI. Like I said earlier on this list, this was a really out of the box, brilliant, creative idea as how to stop the device without making it predictable, because I don't think anybody predicted this. This was genius, and it's such an amazing looking scene. And the scene makes Barry look so powerful. One of the main reasons The Flash was my favorite superhero during the Justice League TV show when that was on, or at least when I watched it, because I don't think I watched it while it was on. I watched it later. But the reason he was my favorite superhero there is because of how powerful he was without being overpowered. Like, he didn't feel overpowered like Superman, but he was, definitely. Like that one scene where he ran around the world so many times, like at the speed of light, and destroyed Brainiac / Lex Luthor. That I've never felt like the Flash on the show was that powerful until I saw this scene. Not because he's like doing anything special. I mean, he's just running, getting something, and running out. But I don't know why, it just made Barry look so powerful that I just couldn't help but put it at number one because of that, because it looked amazing, and because it was such a creative solution to their problem. But let me know in the comments down below what your favorite moments were from this week from the Arrowverse plus Black Lightning, because we don't really know if that's in the Arrowverse yet, but it probably is, which is why it's on these lists. But let me know in the comments down below what your favorite moment was, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. Thanks for watching.